So next up, I'm really happy to invite three speakers who will be doing a joint presentation on the evolving from digital telco to AI-powered digital service provider. We have Jonathan from Salesforce, Lorella from Sparkle, and Shawn from ideaHelix. Come on out and introduce yourselves, and we look forward to hearing about the next generation of innovative solutions.
Hi there. Thanks.
And you want me in the center?
All right.
Or over far? Okay.
You're all probably asleep. So I give you 1 minute to stand up, and at the same time, you have to think of a dad joke. And then we'll go for the best dad joke. So I'll give you a minute. You can stand up and stretch and think of a good joke.
Good. Yes.
You got it right.
So stand up.
All right, who's got a good dad joke? Nobody has a good dad joke? They're asleep. So I was given one as we were coming in. Why is 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9. Sounds good, right? Okay. We're going to try and keep this lively because clearly it is 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the second day. But we're going to have some interesting things talking about becoming a digital service provider and also how AI figures into that. My name is Jonathan Phillips. I work at Salesforce. I lead industry marketing for communications, media, and tech. Shawn?
Thank you, Jonathan. I am Shawn Henshall. I'm EVP of Products and Architecture at ideaHelix. We're a boutique consulting firm working with Salesforce with a focus on communications, media, energy, and utilities industries.
And I think most of you already know Lorella.
I'll present myself
Okay,
after.
in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk
Response.
about this evolution and how we get from being just connectivity into a digital service provider, but also how AI figures into that. We will talk about some things that come in the future. And so the lawyers always say I have to have a forward-looking statement. I am not going to read it. We do this like 27,000 times at Dreamforce, so I'm definitely not going to read it. But let's talk a little bit about Sparkle.
Yes. So I start speaking about Sparkle and not about me, because today I'm really proud. We are really proud because yesterday night we was awarded 4 times. So we are this. Sparkle is the first global service provider in Italy, among the top 10 in the world, ranked the 4th for C-BON, that is our Tier 1 C-BON Tier 1 IP transit service. And we sell voice and mobile, we sell backbone and infrastructure, and we sell secure cloud and networking solution. And in these categories, yesterday we won 2 awards, one for the SASE and one for the SD-WAN. And
one for carrier internet. Sorry.
3, thank you, Daniele. So this is our playground. We have 600,000 kilometers of fiber optics, submarine cables and terrestrial cables. And we also build and manage hub. These are carrier-neutral hub. Usually we build at the landing of the cable, the subsea cable, in order to give to our customer good quality and reliability and no latency, low latency network access. So as you can see, the Mediterranean area is our core, but we have also we have cables all over the world, and we are the 4th for C-BON service in Latin America. And we started our story in our history in Latin America because 100 years ago we built our first submarine cable between Buenos Aires and Roma. So it's a long story. But we are still working on our network. Our flagship program is today the building together with Google of a system of 2 submarine cables, one between Milan and Aqaba in the Mediterranean Sea, and the other one from Aqaba to Mumbai and the Red Sea. So I'm Lorella. I'm the Chief Information Officer in Sparkle. And so I brought the Sparkle IT architecture, because we always speak about network, but we have systems and IT architecture. So this is the result of our digital transformation. And now we have a very well delayered architecture. We have pieces that are integrated via API. We are integrated via API with our partners also, with the Sonata API and other kind of APIs. And we have a sum of best of packages, best of breed packages. I put the attention on Salesforce, not because I'm here with these guys, but because Salesforce has been a key of the transformation. So the Salesforce architecture is based on API. Salesforce has data, capabilities, and a level of exposure, because as we say, it is not important the exposure, it is important to have the capabilities to expose. So here we have the capabilities, the exposure of the API via API, and so we can expose the capabilities to the customer via the customer portal, but we can use the same API to expose the capabilities east-west, so to the partner. And we implemented in our Salesforce application the mapping between Salesforce API and Sonata API. Then I was so happy to see Salesforce at MEF in Montreal, because I'd like to have for free the Sonata API in next Salesforce release. And it is the reason why I'm here. So, Jonathan, why are you at MEF?
Why are we at MEF?
Yeah.
I think you actually described it. You have the foundation, you have the engagement or the logic layers, and then you expose it to different applications. And that's exactly what we want to do at Salesforce, is enable the applications, both north and south, of course, but also east-west. And so that's where great partnership with MEF and some great information and prodding from our partners at Sparkle and a few other customers are helping us to really investigate more deeply how we can facilitate those east-west transactions. Clearly, the customer experience is going to be many different things. It will be different if you're interacting with an API out to an enterprise customer. It will be different if you're interacting with an API to another carrier. But then you have your sellers, you have your customer care agents. And so there's all kinds of different applications that reside around the right data model, the right API foundation, the right logic and application layer, and then the user experience. So lots of different ways that this comes into effect. So we'll talk maybe the next slide a little bit more about what some of those are. So there is, of course, the data model, the core applications, the ability to have an architecture that is open, that is integrated, that is intelligent, that's low code, and that you can do whatever you need to do with it, because your business at one point will be a snowflake. We all think that we're all unique. Well, there are a lot of core common things that are the same. Radhika this morning was talking about the things that are different. You want to do your own, you want to control yourself, of course you're going to do that. And that's why we give you the ability to do whatever you want at the experience layer, knowing that there are a lot of processes that are very common. And in fact, the data model, if we subscribe to the other guys we were with in Copenhagen 2 weeks ago, right, the ODA and SID models, that's fairly common. We're going to extend it, adapt it a little bit to each use case, but we need to have that common foundation to accelerate transformation. And so let's talk a little bit about transformation on the next slide.
Yes, this is about transformation, because I spoke about our IT architecture, but we know that it is not the end point. So this is a slide from TM Forum. I'm using it in order to describe the transition that we need to do from digital telco to digital service provider. So we know after the pandemic that the network is crucial. We already know, but now we know. And at the same time, we also know that sometimes digital life is more important than real life. It's hard to say, but it was our experience, and sometimes it is our experience also after the pandemic. So the digital life is important, and we are a piece of a digital life. So the network is still crucial and is part of a global chain. So our customers, our final customer, the customer that is the customer for everyone, the very last, the consumer, want to have a digital experience. And so we need to change ourselves. We had many sessions speaking about the network as a service, so the evolution of the network. And we need to have also an evolution in the IT architecture. And so next step for our architecture will be to evolve in not the layered, the packaged architecture, where we have the data and we can use the AI capabilities in order to use, the AI in order to use the capabilities. So in a more agile and in a quicker way. So AI, this is another buzzword we know. But we know also that we can leverage on the AI in order to have this kind of transformation. And so I ask you, gentlemen, your opinion, your view on the AI.
Everybody loves big, shiny objects, new things, buzzwords. We get all excited about ChatGPT. As we were talking earlier, Shawn had been doing more ChatGPT queries just before we came up. We never stop our fascination. We're going to spend, as an industry, a lot of money on AI in the next few months. This is actually a really interesting report that came out from AWS and Altman Solon actually just last month. So I encourage you to take a look at it. The QR code will take you directly to their page. It's really interesting to see the importance of AI. But the last panel who were up here, the gentlemen that were just speaking, it was interesting to see how many times they talked about automation. Before you can do all of the fancy things that some board member on your company has dreamed that you can do in AI, you should probably start with automation, and maybe before that, there's a few extra steps, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The next slide talks about some of the waves of automation that have come in the past couple of years. Shawn, when you were at university, you did something about AI.
Yes, and I would say that a lot of you see the 4 pillars of AI here, and save for the exception of the artificial general intelligence, which is a theoretical concept at the moment. Would be really cool when we get there, if we get there. The predictive, generative, which is, and also adaptive, I would throw into that category, autonomous agents, they're all based on technologies that are not new. This is not surprising. Some of the innovation in all of these was done in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. There's a good example of an autonomous agent that was developed in 1966 called ELIZA by MIT. It didn't pass the Turing test for being able to fool people that it was human, but only 6 years later it did. So we have chatbots, they were called chatterbots going back to the 1960s and 70s that were very effective. So what is new, why AI now? And by the way, we're now actually, our experts are going back in time and looking at all this amazing work that was done over the last 50, 60 years, resurrecting these algorithms and saying, we can work with these. We weren't even aware that some of this research was done. Now we can work with it. Because we have access to advanced processing power, AI needs massive amounts of data. And of course, we have that now, and we can store it safely. And we have the technology, and this is where MEF comes in. We have the technology to make it accessible to AI algorithms. So that's why this wave is happening, in my opinion. But remarkable to look back at the history of AI for sure. It's not new. These algorithms are not new.
So you did some research on the next slide.
Yeah, and what did we do? We asked ChatGPT what it would do to help a digital service provider evolve to a AI-powered digital service provider. So you're looking at an artificially intelligent generated slide, or at least the content for it. And I've had an extraordinary relationship primarily with ChatGPT over the past couple of weeks. This is what it came up with.
That's a little scary.
It's a little scary. It is. It's been incredible. But leadership and vision. So we need the leadership. We need down to the roots of the company to understand the goals of what we're doing in applying AI to the problems we're trying to solve, and that's critical. And the one thing that I personally would add in on the leadership is having a center of excellence to make sure that all of the programs start and finish and don't go off the guardrails. So that's the leadership and vision, utterly critical. A few things it told us about technology and data privacy, how to collect the data, how to store it optimally, how to rationalize the data. AI needs clean data, and that is absolutely key to getting clean AI generated. And then applying AI to the business, you don't do that without experts and folks that are thoroughly educated in the field of artificial intelligence. You need to bring these people on board. You need to train the employees to use AI properly. And we also need to have our key performance metrics in place so that we measure the effect of AI, and we iterate and change until we've achieved the right objective.
So let's think about how we start. Next slide. As you mentioned, Shawn mentioned, it's all about the data. You have to have all of the right data. You need to be able to model that in a manner that makes sense for our industry. What works for financial services or healthcare or retail and consumer goods doesn't really apply. That's why we have things like standards in our industry, and that's critical to have that right foundation with the right data model. But then as you look at that data, you don't want to be copying it. Just because I need information from billers and network events and customer care, I don't need to have all of that data in one place. I need to be able to get to it, thus the importance of APIs and standards, and I need to avoid copying as much as possible. Those are really critical components of a strategy. And then as you are connecting that data, you need to harmonize it. I had, with my service provider, 7 different user IDs, but there's only one of me. Thankfully, there's only one of me. But I had 7 different user IDs. That's silly. We need to bring this together. We need to harmonize that data, and then we need to maintain that data. Hygiene of data is absolutely critical. I've run into many organizations where they have a data czar or czarina to make sure that the data stays clean and is maintained. So that's absolutely critical. Now, there's things that we can do with AI today. We're going to automate, but let's take a look at some of the things that we were actually doing with Salesforce today. The next slide, we talk about our world of marketing. We do a lot of interesting things in marketing. We already have generative AI creating audience segments for marketing campaigns. That's available today. In the world of sales, automatically generating contract templates and the clauses that are in the contracts and applying them to different geos. Sales reps automatically generating emails as they're doing their outbound prospecting. In terms of fulfillment, sales or service technicians out in the field filling out their work orders by hand. Let the AI do that. And so generative AI is already filling out these work orders for them. In customer care, years ago when we were in the machine learning world, we had case reason codes that already came up and were suggested. Today we're creating all those case summaries automatically, or infusing knowledge articles into a response. One of the interesting things that David just walked in, that his team has been working on, is billing inquiry management. 60-70% of the calls or emails into your customer care center are about what's my bill, what's wrong with my bill, and so that's one of the things that will be coming out early in next year, to be able to automatically respond to that and automatically do the analysis of the bill or billers and the contracts and the SLAs, provide that information back to the customer care agent and provide them a recommendation. Maybe you should upgrade to an international plan. Maybe you should upgrade to an unlimited data plan for your fiber connection. So all kinds of really interesting things that we're doing today and continuing to evolve along the next couple of years. There's some guardrails, however. We need to be really careful. Shawn mentioned privacy. We've talked a lot about privacy and security this week. One thing to remember is your data is your data. It's not my data. I may give you some tools to help manage that data, but it's your data. We will never ever use your data to train somebody else's model. Somebody made an announcement in one of the papers recently that said that they were actually going to do that. Frankly, I think that's probably illegal. It's definitely unethical. Your data is your data. It's not my product. So it's your data. That is all about trust. And oh, by the way, we have to worry about compliance, not getting sued. It's kind of important. We have clearly laws in the European Union, in Brazil, in California, in Canada, and other countries around the world. Compliance is absolutely critical. There's a great article and another QR code for you if you want. We recently published a report about ethical marketing and the importance that customers put on dealing with companies that they deem to be ethical. Transparency is absolutely critical. I'll leave you with one last thought on the last slide. We had an AI day back in June, and our CEO interviewed Julie Sweet, the CEO of Accenture, and she ended the interview with these 5 really interesting and frankly critical questions. Everybody's excited about these big shiny objects of AI. Where is it going to be used? What are the risks? How are those risks going to be mitigated? How are you going to monitor that? And at the end of the day, who's accountable? So that's some thoughts about evolving to being a digital service provider and using AI. Questions, discussion, thoughts? Or you're all asleep? You're not asleep, there's some laughs. Questions, thoughts?
A question.
Yeah, I have a question. So about your data governance, where you just talked about, how do you prove that you're keeping the data isolated?
Ah.
Do you do compliance audits? Do you do reports? How do you prove to the customer that you're not versus that announcement that you're referring to where they are going to use your data?
Yeah. So we have a couple of things. First, we have an ethics and AI office, and their job is to make sure that they keep us honest. Second, as we think about the architecture, we have what we call we use Einstein all over this. So Einstein is our guy for AI. The Einstein trust layer is very specific about how do you ground the prompt, how do you properly design the prompt, but then ground the prompt with data. Then as you're sending it towards the LLM, you have to mask that data so that anything that is personally identifiable information, PII, is masked. We don't want to educate the LLM based on your data, so we're masking that proprietary data. We send the query to the LLM. One of the requirements when we transact with an LLM is what we call zero prompt retention. We can use the prompt to get a response, but as soon as they give us the response, they must delete the prompt. That's a requirement. They want to do business with us, that's a requirement. Prompt comes back in, we do things like check for toxicity, bias. We have a full audit trail. We're putting the PII data back into the prompt before we present it to the customer care rep. But all of that is audited, all the way from the very beginning prompt, when you're doing your prompt engineering and prompt design, grounding it, masking it, sending it, retrieving it, checking it for toxicity, bias, hallucinations, and then repopulating it. So that's every single step is audited that you can query. It's not for me, it's for you. Any other questions? More alerts. We've been all getting these alerts almost since 2 hours ago.
No, I just want to add that we are speaking about granular capabilities. It looks like microservices. Ah. We are speaking about API. It is not something new. Yeah. We are speaking about a data-driven company. It is not new. So, which is new, and it is the reason why it is the momentum, as in some sessions we heard. It is a different way in which we need to serve our customer. This is new. And the AI It's new. Okay. So perhaps it is the right moment to really adopt this kind of paradigms. And we are speaking about these paradigms for years, but perhaps yes, the moment to realize.
Great.
Yeah?
Excellent. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
We'll
you.
give you like 5.5 minutes back.